Hey everyone, TJ. So, this winter we got a brand new shop because I just bought a house. That means we need to do a super cool project. Not that anything I haven't done is cool, but some things just look cooler than others. This is a Focke-Wulf FW190D-9, designed by David McClellan. I had my eye on this for a while to build it. Then things happened and wound up not building it. So now we're going to build it, so I figured go through and do a series of videos on how to scratch build from prints. Some models are a lot easier, like profiles. Other models like this are a lot more complicated because this whole model is round. Alright, the fuselage is round on these, just like the real ones. So unlike a typical stunt plane, where you're going to have flat sides and you get all your curve out of carving your top and bottom block, this whole thing is round. It's a big long cylinder. So how do we do this? Well, we make molded fuselage shells. A lot of guys are mold top and bottom blocks, things like that, to get around having to spend a whole lot of money on blocks to carve out. So they'll make a block off to the side and you use materials other than balsa to make it. I mean, you can use pine if you want, but a lot of guys just carve it out of foam and I mold a piece of wood over the top of it, so that way you instantly got the right thickness and all that for nice lightweight, and it's a whole lot less expensive than going to a lot of contest balsa blocks. This, on the other hand, is all sheet regardless. It's not carved out of one block. There's a few formers going down that you can see, and all the formers are already cut out over on the right, except for the first A1 ring on the far bottom right hand corner. That's step one in scratch building. All right, so it helps you have two sets of prints. I bought a set, the master set that's not cut up. That is from Air Age Plant Service. Then the other one I got from Outer Zone, and I got that printed off on a plotter. So the one that I printed off, I'm using to cut up, but the, I guess, quote unquote nice one or OEM one is going to stay the nice set that'll be hanging up in the air and what, so I can look at it nice and easy while I'm building. So now that we got these and most of the patterns cut out for what we need to get started on building this thing, now I'm going to show you guys how to move your patterns to a piece of wood to make a good cuttable template. Okay, so for the wing, on a kit you normally get all your wing ribs cut out for you and nothing's an issue. Well, instead of, in this way we can see, we got W1 all the way out to W13. Instead of making 13 individual patterns and cutting out just 2 of each rib, what we're actually going to do is we're just going to use the templates here at the top. They both say tip, but this is the root and this is the wingtip, so W1 and W13. And after that, once we cut out our patterns and bolt them together, we use this pattern up here. We're going to trace it onto clear plastic, and this will mark out our 3/8 tubing holes, because this whole wing gets built on a set of tubes, so it guarantees straight and square. As we see, it's got, place your trailing edge on each line, W1 all the way through W13. And then it's also got how you got to line up the center line of the rib, going up and down the axis here. So that's giving us our angle from rib to rib. And this actually moves in all axes. So the rib tapers coming down this way. All right, and then from the top, both the front and the leading and trailing edge taper, and on top of it, when it's assembled, the wing has a V in it. It's got dihedral. So a lot of stuff going on. That's why building with the bars makes it nice and easy. So now on to moving our templates over to wood to cut. We're gonna make these out of ply, our templates. That way, as we're carving and sanding them, this ply is significantly harder than the balsa we're working with. And we can already see I made the root one. Now we're going to do the tip. Wing ribs, center lines are critical. Luckily, the designer of this one already mark center lines for you. If he didn't do it, you're gonna wind up having to do it yourself. So to start out, lay your template down. Very first thing off the bat is get your center line down. Use a ruler so you can even kind of double check his work. Make sure it looks good. Okay. And then I always start on the ruler, work my way off, so you get a little witness out there. Same thing on the front. All right, now we remove our paper template, and we're going to connect our two lines. The more accurately you can draw your center lines, the more it's going to help later on down the road, because you can use them for double checking measurements, lineups. You can check washout. There's a lot of different things you can check if you have known good center lines on everything. Line it back up best you can. And since I had these plans rolled, just lay a ruler down to help you hold it down a little. And get the sawdust off the pen. Here we go, we're back into kindergarten class with tracing. Now, even if you're off a little bit when you're tracing these, it's not like we're in a production environment where you're trying to make 50 of these things, 60, hundreds, thousands, whatever. You're making a one-off model, so a very small error is easy to correct later on, and you don't need to worry about, oh man, this is 10 thousandths of an inch smaller than what the designer intended, blah, 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 all that. Because again, you're only making one of them. If you were in a production environment, yeah, of course you'd use these as a first prototype, check it out, make sure everything's good. Issue a print revision, have the engineer issue a reprint, and then you go on and on and on in circles until finally you get something that you're happy with for making the original pattern tooling, and you go on from there. All right, so got that one done. Back down, checking your center lines. I'm right-handed here, so I'm going to be working right in front of the camera. Oop, forgot the backside. We take it off. We see if we're happy with it. That looks good enough to cut out for me. So, then mark it so you don't forget what they are. FW190D-9. There you go, now. Bunch of other parts got to get cut out and apply. I'm gonna go through and trace all the rest of them. It's the same procedure for all of them, so you don't have to worry about missing a crazy secret step for all that. So all the ones that gotta get done and apply, we'll go ahead now and do what you can see here. A couple over there. The whole mess of them gotta get done out and apply. But that's really step one. Well, you're a couple steps. And step one's deciding that you actually want to pull the trigger on something like this. I'm insane. I'm biting off way more than I can chew, but it's going to look so cool when it's done. So, give it hell. That's step one, overcoming fear. Step two, get the prints if they're commercially available. If not, ask around. Maybe somebody's already designed one, or design your own. That's step two. Step three, 2 sets of prints. cut one up. The other one you're going to use is master, just so you can keep an eye on everything, make sure everything looks good. And then after that, step 4, we're going to start cutting stuff out. Okay, and there we go. All the fuselage formers are there, along with the 2 wing ribs that we need to start making our patterns. So one thing people might be thinking right now, why am I bother making, I already have them cut out all on paper, why am I bother making plywood templates now right from the paper instead of just using the paper for everything? Well, that's a good question. The reason I'm doing it this way is because of the molded fuselage. Okay, I got to build a mold for it, and you can only mold half at a time. All right, and then also the formers that are going to turn into the fuselage, be on the inside of the actual model. Those have to be as close to exact to matching the plug as possible, so we get really nice tight glue joints, so it's really good and strong and also light. So what I want is, I want to make my patterns out of plywood something good and hard, sand them to the exact shape that I want, you know, compare it back to the plan and go back and forth, and then that way I have a known good hard example. That way when I go to make the parts for the fuselage mold, and when I go to make the parts for the fuselage itself, you know, all our formers going down, they're as close to exactly the same as I can get it. And then after that, you know, just very gently massaging with some sandpaper to get things to fit as close as possible. That's the logic behind that. All right, now it's time to go cut some wood. Okay, so here we are in the garage. First step is get everything down to a manageable size to work through your saw, so it doesn't make planning your cuts as critical. And then just take your time and cut out your pieces. Work slow, you're not trying to set any speed records. Leave your line if possible. Always run with your guard at the lowest settings. I'll lift this up just for the video. That way you can see the cut, what I'm doing. This does not make your blade track very good if you got the guards this far apart. I'm going to be leaving a lot of material behind, but I'll take it off with a sanding block. up the guard, I'll finish up the rest, and we'll get back to it. Alright, now that we got them all cut out, now it's time to clean up the edges. That's why we left the line, so we can take our time here. There we go. And then just find a little dress off by hand just to make everything super, super pretty, but that's just about there. Now we do that to the rest of them. And there we go after dressing them off. All nice and pretty. We got the part there. Line it back up. I'd say that's close enough. Even something like the wing rib, everybody always freaks out, oh, they gotta be exact. Well, people use shoe soles for drawing wing ribs and airfoils, so keep that in mind too. Those turn nice. The interesting thing is this guy. He's got a little bit of space at the top and the bottom, but when I lay the paper pattern on it, it fits fine, so I'm not sure which one scaled wrong. This printing or the printer that I did, because everything else fits nice and pretty. I'm gonna have to think about that and make a final decision, but that's how you make patterns. Thanks for watching. Yeah, everyone, there's a couple things I want to go through real quick, so I'm still going along making patterns. Remember when I was talking about this yesterday, I was making a big deal about center lines on all of our parts, our wing ribs and things like that. Well, those come into play for, if I can get these sheets apart. Here are the, these are going to be the formers that are going to make up the mold. These are fuselage formers, these are mold formers. Alright? So that's why the center lines are so important, because you see you got to build, you know, the left side of your fuselage and the right side, right, no, this is the top, so I'm going to get flipped around, put together. we need to make sure these line up real nice and accurate side to side so that when we go to put these two halves together, they will meet correctly right on the very bottom and down along the very top. You can see here on the print, that's a block. Right there, this whole thing is done in 3 30-second sheeting. So, had to go through, and it got kind of interesting doing center lines. And we'll pay special attention to former number 6, because if you'll notice, former 6 looks like it's at a slight angle compared to everything else. The top is tipped forward. Those took a little bit of thinking. Here, we got marked on the print center line already from the original plans. On each of the formers, they gave us a vertical center line. All right, so what did we do to find this? Well, we lined it up best we could over it on top and bottom, and lay a ruler across it. And there you go, from side to side. I'm holding the camera by hand, obviously, sorry. Side to side, that way we know right there is dead nut center of this former, all right? So we did that on all those, and we're gonna transfer this mark onto all the wooden ones. Then of course, well, what are we doing about the mold? Well, little YouTube magic here. So we cut out another pattern, all right? You can see that going side to side, all the formers are laid out on it. Sorry about the glare on the board. Okay, so with those center lines now, with each of our formers, former number 6, which we were just talking about, once I cut that out, or put it in the wood, cut it out of the wood, lay it down. We already got our angle in there from tracing it out from the print. Then we're gonna put that center point on that center line lined up inside of these lines, and then that former is exactly where it needs to go. All right, so we got one print made, and very important to note this. Zoom in on this will work. Okay, we got this bottom longeron that's going to go on everything, but we've also got this sheeting here too. We've also got this sheeting here on the top. We need to make sure when we cut our pattern that that sheeting is not factored into anything, okay? Because if we were to leave that sheeting on, then make our mold, well, the mold would be 3 30 seconds too big per side. Remember, this thing's round, so we're talking about diameter here, all right? And then we'll also be trying to wrap over from side to side, and it'd be a lot of trimming, messing around, screwing around, hoping that this big, crazy reverse curve coming down in here lays out nice and pretty. So that's one of those little things that you really need to pay close attention to. Because if we look at our other pattern, all right, you compare them. See that little longeron former stringer guy? You can see that there as well, but there's no sheeting. I almost caught myself right before I was getting ready to trace it on the plywood. So wait, whoa, that sheeting's got to come off. So one thing to keep in mind, and then so from this, I got one side. I need to make another one of these. I wanted to make one as good as I could first, and then I'll make another one to match this exactly. And then we'll start cutting out formers, and then we'll start gluing formers in. Well, stay tuned.